There was a time when I believed every dream carried a message, not just meaningful dreams, every dream. If I dreamed about water, it meant transition. If I dreamed about fire, it meant warfare. If I dreamed about a person, it meant assignment. In the occult world, sleep was never neutral. It was a battlefield, a channel, a gateway. We were trained to wake up and immediately interpret symbols. Nothing was random. Nothing was just the mind resting. Everything was decoded. And that mindset did something dangerous. It removed peace from sleep. Because when you believe every dream is communication, you stop resting. You start analyzing. You wake up scanning for meaning. And if the dream felt intense, you assume it must be spiritual. When I left that life and surrendered to Christ, I expected dreams to become louder, clearer, more dramatic. Instead, something surprising happened. My dreams became quieter, less symbolic, less chaotic, and I had to confront a difficult truth. Not every dream is God speaking. Sometimes your brain is simply processing your day. If you've been wondering whether God is speaking to you in your sleep, I need you to hear this carefully. The answer is not found in intensity. It's not found in symbolism, and it's not found in fear. Let me show you what I had to unlearn. Dreams feel spiritual because they bypass logic, symbolic, vivid. Your guard is down. Your imagination is unfiltered. And when something feels powerful, we assume it must be important. But neuroscience tells us something simple. During sleep, your brain reorganizes memories, emotions, and stress. It processes unfinished conversations, unresolved feelings, hidden fears. Sometimes the dream that feels prophetic is just your mind sorting data. In the occult, we were trained to spiritualize that process. But maturity required me to step back and ask, is this divine communication or human processing? That question changed everything. Here is something I had to learn the hard way. When God truly speaks, clarity follows, not chaos, not anxiety, not obsessive decoding. In my past life, dreams left me restless. I would wake up tense, alert, trying to interpret every symbol before sunrise. But when I began walking with Christ in a grounded way, I noticed a pattern. If a dream lingered with peace and clarity, I could calmly reflect on it. If it left me anxious and scrambling, it was usually emotional residue, not revelation. God is not the author of confusion. And if your message requires frantic interpretation, it may not be a message at all. One of the most harmful habits I developed in the occult was forcing meaning onto neutral experiences. We were rewarded for interpretation, celebrated for symbolic insight, and over time, you begin to see patterns everywhere. But here's the truth. If you search hard enough, you can make anything mean something. Dream about water. It must mean cleansing. Dream about a storm. It must mean attack. Dream about someone you miss. It must mean destiny. But sometimes water is just water. Storms are just stress. And people appear in dreams because you thought about them yesterday. Forcing meaning keeps you trapped in hyper analysis. Freedom comes when you allow some dreams to simply be dreams. If you genuinely believe a dream may carry spiritual significance, test it calmly. Ask 3 questions. Does it align with God's character? Does it produce peace? Does it require fear-based urgency? If the dream contradicts God's nature, discard it. If it creates panic or obsessive urgency, step back. If it leads to quiet reflection and wisdom, you can pray about it without drama. Notice the difference. No panic. No declarations against shadows. Just steady discernment. Fear changes dream content. If you consume a lot of spiritual warfare language before bed, your brain will process it. If you go to sleep anxious, your dreams will mirror that tension. In the occult world, we primed our minds before sleep with expectation. And what you expect often shapes what you experience. When I stopped feeding my mind dramatic narratives before bed, my dreams changed. They became calmer, less intense, because my nervous system was no longer on alert. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do before sleep is disconnect from anxiety. Let me be clear. God can communicate in many ways, but when He does, it is consistent with His character. It does not require you to decode symbols obsessively. It does not contradict Scripture. It does not inflate ego or create fear. When I experienced moments that truly felt directed by God, they were simple, clear, unforced, and they didn't demand immediate dramatic action. They invited trust. If you wake up from a dream and feel steady clarity, you can pray about it. But don't elevate every dream to prophecy. That mindset leads to instability. The real indicator is not the dream itself. It's the fruit the next day. Do you feel grounded or frantic? Do you feel peaceful or pressured? In my past life, dreams left me feeling like something urgent was unfolding. In my new life, when God speaks, there is no chaos attached. The next morning is calm, and calm is powerful. Here is something many believers overlook. Sleep is a gift. Rest is holy. If you turn every night into a spiritual decoding session, you rob yourself of peace. God is capable of speaking clearly. He does not need you anxious. He does not require you to analyze every symbol. Sometimes the most mature response is this: that was just a dream. And then you move forward. Here is something many believers overlook. Sleep is a gift. Rest is holy. If you turn every night into a spiritual decoding session, you rob yourself of peace. God is capable of speaking clearly. He does not need you anxious. He does not require you to analyze every symbol. Sometimes the most mature response is this: that was just a dream. And then you move forward. Here is something many believers overlook. Sleep is a gift. Rest is holy. If you turn every night into a spiritual decoding session, you rob yourself of peace. God is capable of speaking clearly. He does not need you anxious. He does not require you to analyze every symbol. Sometimes the most mature response is this: that was just a dream. And then you move forward. Let me end here. The clearest sign that you are growing spiritually is not vivid dreams. It is stable days. If your life is marked by peace, wisdom, and consistency, you are aligned. You don't need nightly revelations to confirm that. The obsession with decoding sleep often comes from insecurity, the need for constant confirmation. But mature faith does not need daily supernatural signals. It walks steadily. So, how do you know if God is speaking to you in your sleep? You don't chase intensity, you test for peace. You measure clarity, you refuse fear. And if nothing dramatic happens at night, that is not spiritual distance. It may be spiritual maturity. Because sometimes the greatest evidence of growth is this: you slept, you rested, and you woke up grounded. That is not silence, that is trust. And trust is louder than any dream.